I'd like to invite our chime to sing and begin our practice with a sentiment of lovingness. This little painting that I made, and on the back I write these sentiments of metta. This one reads, "May you see love everywhere. May you see love everywhere." Friends, happy July 1st. How amazing. In the Spokane Sangha for the 2026 year, we are exploring each month one aspect of the foundation of the Buddhist practice, the first teaching of the Buddha, the Four Noble Truths and the Noble Eightfold Path. And so we're beginning a whole new aspect of the Noble Eightfold Path, which is the cultivation of wise action. And not only are we looking at wise action in that traditional sense, but we're also looking at it from a reimagined point of view. And the motivation behind that basically is me and in my practice of how can I think about my actions as being wise or unwise. And one of the things I was noticing in my practice was this striving for only wise action, meaning striving for only good action. And then when I encountered something unskillful in my actions, something that was still immature, something that was still unhealed, unwise, I got really down on myself. And I began to think about, like, look at that attachment. I'm so attached to just being only wise in my action that I'm forgetting the value that I can extract from all the times I'm unskillful, all the times my actions aren't clear. And so I began to realize, oh, maybe wisdom in my action is my capacity to look at when my actions are bearing fruit that's delicious and when my actions are kind of rotten. And if I can understand the conditions of both and bring that together in a wholesome way in my own experience, maybe that's what will unlock my wisdom. And so I decided to reimagine that, to learn to be real. Just to be real about where I'm at, what I'm thinking, how I'm feeling. And coupled with being real is also all the ways that I'm false. I pretend, I hide, I project this image that I got it all together, but really behind the scenes, I might be falling apart. And so to learn, why am I doing that? What's the motivation? What are the conditions for that? And when I can understand all of that behavior, then I can put down the armor a little bit and be more real. It's a practice. And we're really going to dig into that next tomorrow. Today, we're going to continue our conversation exploring Shantideva and the guide to the Bodhisattva's way of life. And I brought all of that forward because what we've been exploring with Shantideva is the cultivation of wisdom. How do we bring that forward? And today I'm just going to read 2 verses. And the 2 verses from chapter 9 that I'm going to read, Shantideva kind of taps into really the unreliability of the mind. And how the mind can seem so real. Our thoughts are so real, so tangible. And yet, if we can just create a little bit of space to be curious about them, like, am I seeing this clearly? Do I really have the handle on this thought in the way that I think I do? Venerable Tubten Chodron wrote a book called Don't Believe Everything You Think, which is a really common mantra in Buddhist circles. And it's meant to be a friendly um, invitation to just look with curiosity. So let me share with you from this book, The Guide to the Bodhisattva's Way of Life, what Shantideva has to say. If a mother dreams her child has died, the thought that the child no longer exists removes the thought of the child's existence, even though neither thought is truly existent. In other words, neither thought is truly real. Let me read that verse again. If a mother dreams that her child has died, the thought that the child no longer exists removes the thought of the child's existence, even though neither thought is truly existent. There's a ghost that just visited Soul Center and removed a plaque from the wall. Fascinating. I love that. All right, the second verse is, through these various lines of reasoning, we have established that production does not occur without a cause, and that a result, such as a sprout, does not exist in any of its causes and conditions, either individually or collectively. Effects do not come from anywhere else when they are produced. They do not go anywhere when they perish, and they do not inherently abide. They appear to be truly existent only because of ignorance, but in fact are like illusions. Shantideva speaks a lot. Now, this guy's from the 8th century, remember? And he speaks a lot about how our thoughts, our minds are not truly existent. Really, we're just imagining things. And remember, we're learning this through various interpretations in language. And as anyone knows who speaks more than one language, some things are very, very difficult to translate. But in the example of the mother has a dream, and the dream seems so real. And in that dream, her beloved dies. And in that thought, maybe she awakens and she has this thought of like, oh, what would it be like if my child died? And then suddenly, she's not able to see the present moment and her child, perhaps, because she's so wrapped up in imagining what it would be like if her child died. And Shantideva is just reminding that the human mind has the capacity to be extraordinarily inventive in this way. We can carry our minds a million miles down the road, far, far, far away from the present moment reality. We all have the capacity to do that. And if we do it enough with the same story, if we repeat the same story, if we imagine the same narrative over and over and over again, it becomes more factual, more concretized, even if it isn't even remotely true. I remember one time listening to Venerable Chodron up at Sravasti Abbey, and she gave a Dharma talk similar to this about just sort of the illusory nature of the mind and how when arrogance arises, The mind can begin to conjure and invent all kinds of stories about how great we are. You know, I'm super amazing at this, that, and the other thing. I'm the best person for this. And likewise, what I really loved about her talk, what really landed in my heart is that same arrogance, but flipping the coin, which is I'm the worst person in the world. So it's this attitude of being so puffed up and inflated, and yet also at the same time, in certain situations with certain conditions, completely deflated. And here's the thing that I like to bring forward from my own practice. And it actually is a little bit counter to what Shantideva is trying to suggest. Shantideva is trying to suggest that either it's all illusory, it's all imagined. And I'm like, that's not really helpful for me because that's how I feel. There are times where I, in my insecurity, can be kind of puffed up. It's like I'm protecting that deflated part of me. And I get a little exaggerated and I get a little overconfident. And I project an image of myself that's a bit of a know it all. And again, when I've looked at that, it's because I'm protecting that part of me or I'm trying to heal that part of me that feels very defeated and very deflated. And there are aspects of my experience where those things are real. I feel them because they reflect an experience I had. They are true for me, and they are not the whole truth. So if I had lived in the 8th century, and if I had been allowed to attend Nalanda University, which I wouldn't have been because I'm female, I would have had words with Shantideva. And by the way, I know for a fact we would have been great friends. And I would have probably wanted to say to him, it isn't. Why does it have to be all illusion? It can be real. I can have this feeling, and that feeling is valid and true and simply not the whole truth. I don't have to pretend it doesn't exist at all. Now that's me. You are invited to have a completely different experience and perspective, and I would encourage that. So, the invitation for our reflection today is maybe to allow a story to arise, something that you've been attached to, some narration going on in that mind of yours. And can you explore the conditions of it? Where did it come from? In what ways have you been feeding that story, nurturing it, stoking its fire, keeping it alive? And what if you stopped? What if you let it be true for the time it was true, for the moment it was true, and now, and that's not the whole truth? The practice here, friends, is to treat our thoughts with a lighter touch instead of squeezing the thought and hammering it into some kind of reality, some kind of existence. So, to do this practice, Find a posture in your body that feels engaging. You can lie down for this. That's perfectly a-okay. And by the way, um, specifically to people in recovery, to us here today in recovery, remember, friends, that the journey of recovery is arduous and highly complex, and we almost never get the rest we need. So, if in your practice today you need to rest, please invite it fully. If, however, you have a little bit more engagement to your mind and body, then I'd like you to sit nice and tall and just take some cleansing breaths, just creating some space in the mind and in the body. And allow this prompt to stir something for you. The story I'm telling myself is, and then watch. Notice what wants to come forward. Notice what's vying for your attention. And when you've got it, take a moment to just put your hand on your heart or something, just a gentle inward gaze that you were able to see and hear and understand this wisdom and this insight. What a beautiful thing. What a amazing aspect to your practice. The story I'm telling myself is, and just let it be there for a moment, a couple of breaths. And then maybe you can apply the instrument of peace. Huh, wow, would you look at that? Look at that story. Huh. And then maybe you can apply a little wonder. I wonder, where does this come from? I wonder, how is this story serving my aspirations? I wonder, what part of this story is true and not the whole truth? No striving here, friends. No, no efforting to get to the bottom of your story. None of that. Just this light-hearted inquiry. The story I'm telling myself is, would you look at that? Huh, I wonder, what part of this is true and not the whole truth? That's the practice. Enjoy this time of quiet reflection. Okay, because words matter. And one of the things that is a hallmark to the journey of recovery, and it is um, kind of a decades old practice, and it's still alive and well in not only traditional approaches to recovery, but in lots of religious environments, which is the whole notion of confession. And the thing about confession, when it's held sacred, it can be a really healing environment. But in order to create an environment that's sacred, you have to have really skilled people at the helm, which is rare. And so, one of the things that I really endeavor to do in the Spokane Sangha is to reimagine and apply new language. And one of the things that I'm really encouraging people to reconsider and to think about deeply for themselves is, what is the motivation behind the feeling to confess? Do I feel bad about my behavior and I'm looking for approval? I'm looking for forgiveness. I'm looking for something. It's okay. There's no right or wrong here. It's just, how can I use this scenario to better understand myself? And the language that I would encourage is to simply report, this is my relationship to whatever on my journey. This is where I'm at with my relationship to habit energy. That's the language. This is my relationship to habit energy today. I'm not looking to confess it. I'm not looking to apologize for it. I'm not looking to be forgiven for it. I am simply reporting it and ventilating it as a way of creating space so I can see it more clearly. That's the motivation. That's the intention that we're trying to cultivate here. I hope that's helpful to hear. And it's a slight shift in the perspective, isn't it? Yeah. I'd like to report, this is where I am in my relationship to my habit energy. Yeah. All righty. Friends, let's go ahead and end our practice today with a dedication of merit. And the dedication that I'd love to share with you, and this is particularly for people who are new to the Buddhist practice. It is tradition to begin a practice by setting an intention, to really recognize that we have a motivation, we have a reason for coming here, and then to end the goodness of this practice, remembering to take it in, to really take it in, to receive the merit. And we're receiving the merit not because we're good. We done good. I showed up to the meeting, checked the box, I get the gold star. That's not what this merit is. This merit is this threshold moment where I can step toward who I aspire to be. And by doing so, I can then radiate that presence out into the world for healing, for beatifying, for bringing forward a little bit of the sacred. So, the dedication I'd like to share with you is the intention that I shared, which is, may you see love everywhere. And this isn't in just the pleasant, positive, good stuff. See if you can notice the love that's in the harder things to see, and notice what you notice. In the meantime, friends, if it's comfortable for you, you can bring your hands together at the level of the heart. Breathing in Buddha nature within us all. Breathing out a slight joyful bow to each of us, Buddhas to be. Thank you for your practice, friends. We'll see you next time. Namaste.